Hello, good evening. It's Edith here from Garden of Accounting. So I promised you this morning that I'm going to record a short video to assist you with preparing your cash flow forecast preparations for the next few months. And that is what I'm going to do now. I'm going to share my screen with you using the template that we are providing for you and giving you an example of how I will put together a very basic cash flow in these times. So the template is in Excel format, and when you open the template you will notice that there are several tabs here. The summary sheet is the main sheet where ultimately your cash flow is going to be calculated, but I suggest that you start building the cash flow forecast backwards, and that is what I'm going to do as we go along. So first things first, I would enter the company's name and put in the opening cash position in cell B6, the one which is highlighted in yellow. So this is literally a question of how much money do I have in my bank. If you've got a current account and the savings account that you could use the funds from, then add those two together. So at this point, for example, I'm going to say I've got £1,500 in my current account and I've got another £3,500 in my savings account for the purposes of this exercise. Now what you'll notice is that there are some formulae in the spreadsheet, and please do not type anything on this main sheet that is highlighted either in blue or in grey, because that is going to mess up the calculations. So first things first, let's have a look at what customers are likely to pay us and when. As step one, I would look at your current outstanding invoices that are still outstanding and start entering the expected dates of receipt from those customers. So, for example, if at this point in time I've already invoiced my first customer £500 for a job that I completed, and I'm expecting that payment to be received the next week, then I would literally just enter the amount that I'm expecting to receive in the column of the week commencing period. If you are VAT registered, please make sure you enter gross figures, so inclusive of VAT figures, into the forecast. Now literally work through your current outstanding invoice book and enter the amount that you are expecting to receive into the relevant periods. If you are not sure about when something might be received, which of course is just a guesstimate, then please just either pop them right at the end to use worst case scenario, or use your best guess. Once you've entered all the numbers for your current outstanding invoices, then I would suggest you start thinking about what work it is that you can still invoice, and at what point you're going to be invoicing them, and at what point that is going to be then received. So for example, if at the end of this month you are going to be invoicing £700 to one of your customers, but you know that they are on 30-day payment terms, then that £700 you would have to enter into the column where you are expecting the money to be received. Now as you work through this, more and more is going to be from the fairly certain to the speculative. We don't really know what we're going to be able to invoice, let alone when customers are going to pay us. So my suggestion would be, make as many comments as you find helpful in column A. So for example, with this, if I knew this was invoice 100 from this company, then I would pop that information there. If here I know that that's a job I'm going to be invoicing, then I would say that's the inspection for another company that I'm undertaking on the 30th of March. 30th of March 2020, for example. So use this column A to put as much information in as you are finding useful to allow you to identify what information you are recording here. Once you've done that, then I suggest that you work through your supplier payments. And the logic we follow is exactly the same as for customers. So have a look at what you've got currently, which your suppliers have billed you, which you need to pay, and pop into the relevant columns when those suppliers will need to be paid. So I'm doing a payment run at the end of this month, for example, and I know that I'm going to have to pay these guys, and next month I'm probably going to be paying another couple of suppliers, for argument's sake. Once again, if the supplier invoice has got VAT shown on it, you need to put the gross VAT figure in, so the gross figure of the invoice there, so the amount that you are actually gonna have to be paying out. Similarly to customers, once your current supplier ledger is dealt with, then you need to start working through what regular supplier bills might I be receiving that I know I'm going to have to pay for. So if you've got, for example, regular mobile telephone bills, rents, those sorts of things, please make sure that you keep repeating what you know you are going to be receiving over the period of the next few weeks. Once you've dealt with the supplier payments, I suggest you start looking at your employee costs. And the employee costs, in this case, I would like you to split into net wages and then the PAYE and the pension payments, because there's normally a time delay between paying your employees and then later on having to pay the PAYE and your pension payments. So at this point, literally just look at who you have got on your employee list and try and estimate what net payments you are going to have to make to those guys. So if you are on a regular payment schedule with them, it's relatively easy to figure out, because you just look at last month's payroll, for example, and it's not going to change significantly that much. And once again, populate the columns that you see here. So for example, in this instance, I'm going to assume that I've got 3 employees. I'm not going to furlough these guys at this point in time, and I am going to be paying every single month exactly the same amount to them, and so on and so on and so on. So as I mentioned, enter net figures here, please, so the net salary that you are paying them, and of course use the column to identify the employees by whatever you find useful here. Now once you work through your customer receipts, your supplier payments and your employee costs, it's time to hop back onto your summary sheet. And if we look at the summary sheet, we can see straight away that by the end of April, I will have run out of cash just based on what I'm seeing right now. So let's then start building it up a little bit more. And the next thing I suggest you do is you work through what other incoming monies you are expecting in the business. So for example, if you are in a VAT refund position, are you expecting a VAT refund? And if so, when are you expecting that VAT refund? If you've already applied for a loan and you know that loan is coming in at some point, are you then going to be popping that figure into the relevant column? At this point, let's make the assumption that I haven't applied for a loan yet, because one of the purposes of doing the cash flow forecast is obviously to figure out how much money we are going to need to request if we need to request that. Are there any suppliers who are refunding you any monies? If you know that there are, then please also populate the relevant cells here. So for the purposes of this exercise, I'm going to assume that this particular company is going to receive a VAT refund, and that VAT refund is going to come in on the 20th of April 2020. I'm not going to make any assumptions about loan receipts or money that I might be personally introducing at this point. Then we turn our attention onto the outgoings. And as you can see, the supplier payments have already populated based on what you entered here, and the net salaries that we are paying out to our staff have also populated automatically. So then the next question is, we are going to have to pay out pensions. So I'm going to punt for a figure here once again, and if you look at your earlier payroll processing, then you will be able to pick that figure up. Obviously, if you're furloughing, changing the payroll and so forth, then you need to talk to us and we will be able to give you estimates. And similarly with PAYE, actually it's not due until the 22nd, so I am going to be popping my PAYE payments into the relevant fields as well. I have to tell you, these figures are completely fictitious, so please do not use them for any purpose other than just demonstration purposes here. Now, once I've done that, let's consider our contractors. For example, if you're in the construction industry and you're going to have to be using contractors, you can enter them here, or alternatively, you can just cheat and for the purposes of this cash flow, list them in the employee columns, and then that will give us an automatic entry in line 18. If I know I've got rent to pay, I know normally when I've got that rent to pay, so let's enter my rent payments as well. Oh, sorry, I'm late paying that rent already. And work through every single item as you come to them. When you come to VAT payments, remember that there is a deferment on VAT payments at the moment, an automatic VAT deferment. So I would suggest that unless you know that you're going to make that payment and you might be short on cash, defer that and do not populate the VAT payments as you normally would. And similarly, if you are self-employed and you have got payments on account to make at the end of the 31st of July, then I would say leave that one out and defer it for now as well. It might be that your corporation tax falls due in this period if you are a limited company. There is no deferment on that at the moment, so please enter it the same way as you do for PAYE, and let's see what it does to your cash flow to see whether you need to take further action in this regard. Now, if you've got loan repayments, company credit card payments and so forth, then the fields are available there. And the reality is that most owner-managed businesses have got requirements to take money out themselves. So if it is absolutely necessary to do that, in your case, then I would suggest you populate the drawings or dividends column as well to give a true idea of how your cash flow would be looking. Any other expenditure that I haven't listed, because I actually listed very few here, I would just say rename it and put in the relevant figures there. And hopefully what is going to happen is, having been through this exercise, at the end you will be able to see what your closing bank position would be. So in this case, for this particular business, it appears that, assuming I don't have to pay anything else at this point, I'm going to be 10,000, just over £10,000 short by the end of June. This is the point then when you would start thinking about what can I do to balance the books. So this is the point when you would start thinking about, what if I defer my PAYE payments? Can I speak to HMRC and defer those PAYE payments and thereby hopefully save £1,500 on my cash flow? Is this the point where maybe I've got some savings and I pop some money in from my savings, and therefore when I put some money in from my savings, my situation is going to be slightly better? Is this the point when I genuinely have to look at what I'm going to do about my employees? Do I need to furlough some of my employees? If I need to furlough some of my employees, then what are these figures going to look like? And don't forget, if you have to furlough your employees and you think that there will be some government support there, don't forget to put that furloughed money you are expecting back to the other supplier refunds receipt section. And here, please do bear in mind, we are not expecting any monies from HMRC in the short term, so please consider popping any figures probably to around May time to give you a relatively objective view of your cash flow. Obviously, we are very, very happy to help out, but at this point, if you could just do some of the basic work yourself, then I think that would help us all to move forward as quickly as we can. And if you want us to have a look at your cash flow forecast once you prepared it to see whether we can see anything obvious that doesn't quite feel right, then also please feel free to get in touch with us, and we are going to help you with moving forward. If the case is, as I suspect it's going to be for some of our clients, where they can see those red numbers and they can see that there's going to be a requirement for a loan or some sort of funding, then obviously please get in touch with us, and we're going to try and assist you to make the numbers balance the best way that we can. So let's get cracking on this. Enjoy preparing your own cash flow forecasts, and I look forward to speaking to you later on.